Life Audio.
Welcome to the Crosswalk Devotional. We're glad to have you listening with us. Today's topic is on God's favor and protection in times of religious uncertainty. We'll return with the devotional after a brief message from our sponsors.
Did you know that Gen Z and millennials are leading the resurgence in church attendance? That's right. New research out from Glue and Barna as part of the State of the Church initiative shows that Gen Z and millennials are now attending church more regularly than older generations. This is a historic reversal in church trends. And Glue, spelled Gloo, is at the center of all of this. They're the technology platform for the faith ecosystem, connecting you with the latest research, technology, and values-aligned AI that supports churches, and ultimately, human flourishing. Glue is on a mission to serve those who serve, the pastors, leaders, publishers, and more in the faith ecosystem. That's high tech for a higher purpose. You can stay up to date with everything happening at Glue and across the entire faith ecosystem by texting JOIN to 46816. And when you text today, they'll send you the latest research from Glue and Barna about this historic church trend. Again, that's the word JOIN to 46816.
Hey, this is Chris from the Salvation Army's podcast, Words of Life. If you haven't checked it out, I want to invite you to check out this weekly 15-minute show brought to you by the Salvation Army. Recently, we had a 6-week series with Dr. Zach Clinton, encouraging godly men to be the husbands, fathers, and friends God has called them to be. And through this October, we're featuring a series highlighting stories and testimonies of people's faith journey and their call to full-time ministry.
It was just reminding me of who I was and whose I was. I mean, kind of like what Jesus does, you know what I mean? Like he said to the woman who was about to get stoned, like, you're loved, but go and sin no more.
And it always makes me cry when people, unfortunately, did not have an earthly father, that they can go, I understand what a father's love is because I had an earthly father who loved me.
Listen to Words of Life wherever you get your podcasts or visit wordsoflifepodcast.org.
The God who remains with those who feel exiled for their faith. Written and read by Jennifer Slattery. Among those who were chosen were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief official gave them new names. To Daniel, the name Belshazzar. To Hananiah, Shadrach. To Mishael, Meshach. And to Azariah, Abednego. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now, God had caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel. Daniel chapter 1, verses 6 through 9. Political change, company takeovers and buyouts, national or global rest, all of that often leaves us feeling unsettled and anxious, and understandably so. Those who lead our state and our country wield significant power. But not even the most powerful earthly institutions and officials can thwart God's plans for us or his kingdom. He remains on his heavenly throne, regardless who sits in the Oval Office or holds the position of CEO in the company for whom we work. He is our Father and King who loves to lavish his children with favor and grace, as he did with Daniel, the exiled Hebrew teenager, selected to receive special training to enter the royal service in Babylon. The chief of staff also gave him a Babylonian name to, as the IBP Bible Background Commentary states, exercise authority over them and their destiny, adding that since names often made statements about deity, Babylonian names would impose at least a subtle level of acknowledgement of the Babylonian gods on the young men, end quote. This is in part why today's passage holds such significance. According to the Nelson's New Illustrated Bible Manners and Customs, quote, the faith of one man, Daniel, influenced and helped preserve the faith of a nation. He took his stand for God and was rewarded for his faith. He became, in effect, the prime minister, Daniel 2, verse 48, And he continued in some sort of leadership role until the first year of Cyrus, Daniel 1:21, and even into his third year, end quote. His courage, position, and influence likely allowed the other exiles to practice their faith in a foreign land with decreased fear. Intersecting life and faith. As I said at the beginning of today's reflection, upheaval and change, nationally and globally, economically, and in our workplaces, can leave us feeling vulnerable and defenseless, like our well-being rests in someone else's hands. But God's protection and the elevation of Daniel and all the Lord did through him during the exile assures us this is never the case. God remains on his eternal throne, advancing his will always and forevermore. He never abandons his children. Because of Christ, who surrounds us and resides within us, we're never defenseless. We belong to, are held and carried by, and provided for by the Almighty. He sees us in our fear and pain, understands our most intense emotions, moves toward us in our need, and promises to bring good out of today's chaos and hardship. Daniel's story and the favor and compassion he received from the Babylonian official verifies the truth in Proverbs 21 verse 1, which reads, "In the Lord's hand, the king's heart is a stream of water that he channels toward all who please him." God can and often does work through the most unlikely individuals, pagan leaders included, for the good of his people. Through the exile, perhaps the darkest season in ancient Israel's history, we see his light breaking through because as John 1 verse 5 states, his light shines in the darkness and the darkness has not and cannot overcome it. His light has the power to break through our darkness as well, the darkness we might feel internally when depression, sorrow, or grief weighs heavy on our soul, the darkness attempting to destroy families, battling dysfunction, estrangement, betrayal, or addiction, the darkness creeping into our workplaces, our cities, state, and nation through violence, injustice, corruption, or oppression. Lastly, Daniel's story encourages us to anticipate miracles, and when all hope seems lost, to fix our eyes on the God of hope, who is always working on our behalf and loves to replace ashes with beauty.
The Crosswalk Devotional is a production of Life Audio and Salem Media. If you liked what you heard today, please take a second to rate and review this podcast in your favorite podcast app so that more listeners like you can find the show. For more faith-filled, inspirational podcasts, visit us at lifeaudio.com.
At Thrivent, planning your finances is bigger than money. It's a way to support the people, causes, and community you love. Because helping you put your faith into action is at the heart of what we do. Thrivent, where money means more. Connect with us at Thrivent.com.